to the American Swedish Historical Museum's Toddler Time. For the month of May, our theme is Have You Any Wool? Today we'll be learning how we take sheep's wool and turn it into clothing, like the sweater you see behind me here in our textile gallery. Our story today is Pelle's new suit. There once was a little Swedish boy whose name was Pelle. Pelle had a lamb which was all his own and which he took care of all himself. The lamb grew and Pelle grew, and the lamb's coat grew longer and longer, but Pelle's coat only grew shorter. One day Pelle took a pair of shears and cut off all the lamb's wool. Then he took the wool to his grandmother and said, "Granny dear, please card this wool for me." "That I will, my dear, if you will pull the weeds from my carrot patch." So Pelle pulled the weeds from Granny's carrot patch, and Granny carded Pelle's wool. Then Pelle went to his other grandmother and said, "Grandmother dear, please spin this wool into yarn for me." "That I will gladly do, my dear," said his grandmother, "if you will tend to my cows for me." So Pelle tended grandmother's cows, and grandmother spun Pelle's wool. Then Pelle went to a neighbor who was a painter and asked him for some color with which to dye his yarn. "Silly little boy," laughed the painter, "my paint is not what you need, but if you will row over to the store and get a bottle of turpentine, you can buy yourself some dye with the change." So Pelle rowed over to the store and bought a bottle of turpentine and for himself a large sack of blue dye with the change. Then he dyed the wool himself until it was blue all through. Then Pelle went to his mother and said, "Mother dear, please weave this yarn into cloth for me." "That I will gladly do," said his mother, "if you will take care of your little sister for me." So he took care of his little sister, and mother wove the wool into cloth. Then Pelle went to the tailor. "Dear tailor, please make a suit for me out of this cloth." "Is that what you want?" said the tailor. "Indeed, if you will rake my hay, bring in wood, and feed the pigs for me." So Pelle raked the tailor's hay and fed his pigs. And then he carried in all the wood, and the tailor had Pelle's suit ready for that very Saturday evening. On Sunday morning, Pelle put on his new suit and went out to his lamb. "Thank you very much for my new suit, little lamb." "Bah," said the lamb. It sounded as if he was laughing. The end. So in our story today, we learned about how Pelle took the sheep's wool and cut off that wool. Then they took that wool and they carded that wool using brushes just like these. After they carded the wool, they spun it into yarn that looks like this. After they were done spinning, they dyed their wool. In the story, he dyed it blue. Here I have some yellow. So he dyed it by dipping it. Finally, he wove that wool into cloth, like this. And that's how we make our clothing out of wool. Thank you so much for listening today. Have fun doing our craft, making your own woolly sheep at home. And if you want to send in pictures, you can send it to education@americanswedish.org. Until next month.
Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Lauren Burnham, Education and Public Programs Manager here, and I am so excited to take us on a virtual Toddler Time field trip. Thanks to Miss Rachel, we just heard the story, Pelle's new suit, and we got to learn about the process of turning wool from a sheep into clothing. And so today we are at a very special farm in Paradise, Pennsylvania that belongs to Christina Ahlseen. And here we are going to get a chance to get an up-close look at some of those very special sheep from our story and learn more about the wool-making process and these amazing animals. So let's go meet Christina. Thank you so much for having us out today. And we are here. Who are we going to visit first, Christina?
These are the mamas to be. So we're expecting, we actually have a little girl, a mama that's in labor now. So you might get to see a birth.
Oh, wow.
So she's just started. And then the room that we'll go to next is where we have the mamas with our babies.
Okay, well, we were just talking about this. How many babies do mama sheep usually have?
Well, the new moms that have never delivered usually give us a single, just one.
One baby?
And then the mamas that have had babies before are usually, they have twins.
Oh,
and then
okay.
sometimes we have triplets, 3.
Wow.
So right now we have, this is our nursery we'll go into next.
Okay, follow you in. Okay, special room.
So each of these pens has a mama, and she has her baby with her. So when they're born, we bring them in this room, and they're confined just to a small space. So the mama and the baby have just enough room for them to get up and walk around and nurse, and then lay down again if they need to sleep. These babies all are a week old, so they're quite a bit bigger than when they were first born. Most of them, when they're born, are between 6 to 8 pounds a piece.
So maybe that's like the size of a house cat.
Yes, yes. So this is a little boy, and then her mama's name is Hannah.
Hi, Hannah. And what about the color of these? I noticed the little baby.
When they're born, this breed is called the Gotlands, and when they're born, they come from Sweden. When they're born, they're totally black. And they're allowed to have a little bit of white on top of their heads. But as they get older, then their bodies are in different colored grays.
Okay.
So in the next pen, there you'll see a brother and a sister. And the sister has a little bit of white, like I had talked about. She has white on top of her forehead.
Mm.
And then the 2 little boys that are in this pen, they both have a little bit of white. They're very similar, but one is starting to turn gray now. You can start to see that. So they usually gain between 4 to 5 pounds every week.
Wow, that's
So they gain very fast.
And how much do they weigh when they're grown-ups?
Well, the mothers, the ewes, that's what we call a girl sheep. It's called a ewe, and usually about 140 to 150 pounds.
Wow, so they got a lot to grow.
Yep. And she gets food in the morning. She gets her grain, and then she'll get a little bit in the evening. And then she always gets fresh water, and then she gets all the hay she wants to eat.
Mm.
And the babies are curious. They'll start to get introduced to foods in about 2 weeks. They're born with only bottom teeth, not top teeth.
Hmm.
So they already have their teeth in when they're born, and they already have their hoofs. So in 6 months, when these babies get shorn, their hoofs will have to be trim just like a fingernail or a toenail, because they grow so fast.
And I hear spring is a very special time to be working with sheep, right? For the what are the main reasons?
Yes, yes. Usually that's when we expect to have our lambs, is in spring. And the next, here we have a little girl. And then the next one is 2 little boys.
So these are the twins.
Yeah. So the smaller of the twins here, he was only about 4 pounds when he was born. So it's helpful to keep them in this area because they're very tiny. And this way he has a good chance of keeping up with his mom. He doesn't have to walk very far to nurse. And then the next one there, we have a mama we think's going to have a baby.
Okay,
So
you can see her
in there.
her sides are very big, and that must be where the baby is.
Yep.
Yeah. So you mentioned that these are Swedish sheep?
Yes, they are.
What makes a Swedish sheep different?
Well, they live around the Baltic Sea. They love to eat seaweed. And so what we do is we give them supplements of kelp, which is from the Baltic Sea.
And that's what's in their food bowl, right?
Yep, that's in their mineral. They can chew on that whenever they get hungry.
Okay.
So these babies will be leaving this pen on Thursday.
Okay.
And then the new mamas can come in here. We'll clean this out and get this ready then for the new mamas. And these mamas and babies will have more open, they can play and run.
So they'll go outside in the pasture?
Yes.
Okay.
And they'll all get ear tagged. So we know who's who. And that keeps our records. Yep, and they all love to be petted. And love affection.
Do they have maybe personalities? Like maybe some people might have dogs or cats at home, and all of those animals have personalities. Do these sheep act like that sometimes, maybe?
I think so. Some always want to be petted. There's somebody now that she's chewing on some kelp.
Do you hear that, everybody? That's the sheep talking to us.
Yeah. And they talk back and forth all the time.
All right, so I think that Miss Christina is going to take us now to a very special shed where we're going to get to learn a little bit about the wool that comes from the sheep that I know Miss Rachel talked about in her story of how you make clothing. But the wool on these animals is very special. You can make all kinds of fun things with them. So let's go join her in the shed. We'll be back in a minute. Hold on.
Hi, we're here again. I wanted to show each one of you the sheep. Their hair is called a fleece, and it grows so fast that we have to give them a haircut 2 times a year, and that process is called shearing. But the haircut, you get all this from one sheep, and this is their wool. And just like the book explains what you do with the wool, this is what is the beginning of to get this. So what I do is I wash this, and then I have 2 brushes that's called carding, and we card the wool, and this gives us this. It almost looks like cotton. This is called roving, and what it does is cards all the fibers together to get this. Then once you have this, then you start to spin. And now these 2 colors I've dyed with color. So once I wash my fleece, I do dye right away before I turn it into yarn. But these 2 here are the natural colors that come from our sheep. And then there's a lady in Sweden that makes patterns. So we have them, and these I've knitted up with my wool. And these are hers. So this is more to the end. Once you have this, you have to wash this and get this ready, and then you card it with your brush, and then you get the roving. And once you have your roving, then that's what you spin, and then you have your yarn. So all this is wool, just different in the beginning to the end. Here's a stocking you can do up for Christmas time. Here's a little lamb that I knitted up. And the reason that we're raising these sheep is, first of all, they come from Sweden, but what makes them so special is they already are naturally colored, of this grays. And my grays vary from real light to real dark. And then also, people that are allergic to wool can wear this type of wool. And it's because of the lanolin that they have that keeps all their fibers real nice and tight. So when you touch it, you can almost feel the real soft, almost like hand lotion has been put on this. That's probably
Yeah, some people say wool is itchy, but I guess, is that different for the Swedish breed?
Yeah, every sheep has a purpose, we all say. But their purpose is to provide you with this. Because people in Sweden wear a lot of wool items. They wear sweaters and they wear mittens and hats because the weather is so much cooler than ours over even the winter and the spring. So they wear a lot of this.
Well, that's wonderful. We can't thank you enough for inviting the museum out to you today to check everything out and see the live sheep and really give us a great idea of how we go from wool on the animal to the mittens and the socks that we all can wear together. So thank you again so much for having us out. And any questions that you have about this process, please post and we'll make sure that Christina can answer them for us. So thank you, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.